What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a few different releases that will help you break a DB's ankles off the line. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope it could teach you a few new things. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and you struggle with knowing what to do in the offseason as far as drills go, as far as gym exercises go, check out that very first link in the description below for our ultimate 8-week wide receiver workout plan. What you'll get access to is over 500 plus wide receiver drills and gym exercises all broken down for you in a daily schedule that you can follow with sets, reps, and video examples of each drill. So check out that very first link below if you're interested, fellas. Let's get started with this video. So now, first release we're going to be talking about here is a power skip crossover release on a fade route versus inside shade press. So anytime that or not so much press, maybe like more so like a catch technique on the goal line. So anytime that I have inside shade coverage, whether he's pressed up right in my face, whether he's in catch technique, or whether he is an off man 8 to 10 yards off, his responsibility does not change. He is trying to protect the inside. So if I have an outside breaking route, like an out route, like a fade route, like maybe a corner route, if I'm in open space, I want to try to threaten his leverage the best I can to give me more space to operate to the outside and obviously to get me open. So a power skip release is a great way to do that. We're going to be talking about maybe about 5 to 6 or 4 to 5 different releases that you can choose today. So when he comes off the ball here, he punches with his back foot into the skip and uses that crossover to get those DB's eyes to jump to the inside. He is trying to sell a slant route here. So a power skip, your first step is going to be with your back foot. So you're going to take a punch step with your back foot. Now that punch step, a lot of people will say, oh, that's a false step. That step is a part of the release, and it is to help you attack this DB. Now, reason why we want to attack this DB, why wouldn't Doug Baldwin just use like a simple crossover move or a jab to the inside right here, is because there is some cushion between the two of them. Anytime that there is maybe a yard of space, 2 yards of space between you and the DB, and you're on the line of scrimmage, you need to bring that line of scrimmage to him. You need to attack him, try to step on his toes to make him uncomfortable. But also, it makes it easier to get space. So that's why we take that punch step, so we can skip to the DB. You punch with the back foot, you skip with the front foot, and you take these gather steps in between. So these gather steps that Doug Baldwin takes right here, so he punches with the back foot, skips up. Those gather steps in between help you get your feet underneath your shoulders. Because anybody that knows anything about playing wide receiver is that we have to sell my cuts. If I'm trying to do an inside fake, I actually have to step to the inside to try to get this DB to move off his platform. But if I don't do that and I'm just doing all this lateral movement, he's not going to bite. So those gather steps keep your feet inside of your frame. So when you do decide to throw this crossover, you could be quick about it. You have a more explosive step because your feet are inside your frame, and we could actually sell and step outside of that DB's frame. That is what's going to get a separation. So fellas, power skip release. You take that power skip, you take a couple gather steps, and then we hit him with that crossover. You want to always be threatening his leverage, especially when you have an outside breaking route versus inside leverage press or catch technique. So power skip release. You punch with the back foot, punch with the back foot, reach with the front foot, gather, crossover, okay? Punch, reach, gather, crossover. Let's play this thing again full speed. So he punches, gather steps, hits him with the crossover. Easy money on that release for Doug Baldwin. All right, so next example here is going to be pretty much same deal, another version of a skip release. So I wouldn't call this a power skip. I would call this mainly just like kind of a double skip release to just kind of throw off the timing of the DB, right? So this is honestly the only reason we would use this type of release is just to kind of change up tempo and change up speed on my route. So a lot of times, guys, they try to get too fancy with the different hezzy releases. I can't stand this when a wide receiver will come off the ball. They got a DB who's about 5 yards. They know that they need to close the distance, and they do that weird, like their leg crosses over and they do all this skip stuff. It looks like they're doing like a C skip or something from a track warm-up. Don't do that because number one, it's not necessary. Number two, if this DB gets hands on you and you're skipping around and your legs are crossed, you're going to get put flat on your back. Okay, I'm going to be dead honest with you. Now, everybody's counter to that is, oh, well, coach, I'm only doing that to change up tempo. I'm trying to throw off the DB. This is a good alternative that is not going to make you look like an idiot, okay? So what he does, he comes off the ball. He obviously steps with his back foot first, right? So that's pretty simple advice. He's got his inside foot up. The first step out of there is going to be with his left foot. So when you take that step with the left foot, instead of going left, right, you would go left, left. So it's kind of like a skip on one foot, almost like a single leg hop, if you will. So he comes off the ball, he goes skip, he goes one step, skip second step, then gets up into his crossover move. All that does is just kind of change the tempo on it with the DB. Now, he runs this kind of like return route, if you will, off of this. He comes up, takes that double step into the crossover, and then into this like return, kind of almost like an out slant, stick nod, however you want to think of it, right? Now, let's think about this in simple terms. Let's say, for example, you had to run like a deep seam or a deep post, or maybe you had to run a fade to the outside, and you were trying to get this DB to stop his feet and slow down. This might be a good way to change up the tempo on the route. So you come off the ball, you take a double step with your back foot to change up tempo, and that can force that reaction out of that DB. So fellas, that is a great alternative to that like crossover, kick leg, whatever you want to call that, without looking dumb and with accomplishing the exact same thing, but in a much more efficient and balanced way that is not going to get you jammed and put flat onto your back. Okay, so two versions of the skip release that we could talk about here. Now, let's look at this next example here from this same route from the same wide receiver, this Thayer Thomas out of North Carolina State. Let's watch what he does here with his release. So this is more of like kind of that same power skip release, I guess you could say, but just in a different light. So let's talk about it. So he comes off of here. Watch what he does with his back foot. Same thing. He punches with the back foot and reaches with the front foot. Again, fellas, I'm telling you right now that anytime that you guys are doing a hesitation release, it's way more like efficient than you think. It's not just you're skipping off the line or jumping. Anytime that you're doing a hesitation release, it is more about stepping with your back foot to get you out of the blocks and to get you to shuffle or skip at that DB or hop at the DB. But it's all about your back foot. That simple step can really change a lot in your game. Trust me, fellas. Like a lot of guys, they just come from this position of being flat-footed and they try to jump at the DB. You have no explosion. Your feet are out of the grass. You're not in a balanced position. All of those things don't add up to us beating press. We need balance, we need quickness, but we also need patience. So us being able to punch with this back leg, right? That gives us balance. That punch step gives us balance. That reach helps us get going into the route. And that allows us to be able to throw a crossover fake, to throw an inside crossover fake, because we punched and we reached, but my feet were inside of my frame. That is the number one key anytime that we were trying to do a hesitation move type release. So let's play this thing again from Thayer Thomas. This is a great example, again, of using that punch step to attack a DB. Now, the reason why I show this clip, and again, I'm going to play it full speed and get to the last release from Doug Baldwin here because this next release is crazy. Like Doug Baldwin had some of the best releases in the game. But first, reason why I show this is because when you got a DB who's off, like maybe about a yard, any kind of space, you have to close the distance. Now, I know we know that because in that first clip from Doug Baldwin, I talked about attacking him inside, threatening him inside. But look at this example, DB's outside leverage. So if he's outside leverage and Thayer Thomas is running a post corner here, I don't want to just take off and go run the post corner, right? Because that DB, chances are when he's outside leverage, he has what to the inside? He has help to the inside. So I need to find a way to attack him, to close the space, to make him uncomfortable. And that hesitation move for just a split second by taking that punch step and that reach step is a great way to get him to kind of slow his tempo down and start thinking about what we are doing here. So let's play this full speed. Great job by Thomas closing space, hitting that crossover and attacking that leverage. Threaten his leverage always, fellas, anytime they're in press or man coverage. So this is going to be another variation of a skip release. Now, if you haven't noticed already, that's kind of the theme of the video. That's kind of the theme of the releases that I wanted to talk to you about today. But this is going to be a more vertical skip release, I would say. It's more of like a change in tempo. So what Doug Baldwin is doing here is he is running a 5-yard out versus outside leverage off man, or you can consider this, I would consider this off man coverage, right? So 5-yard out versus outside leverage off man. But also it is on the goal line, right? So on the goal line, we know that this DB is probably not going to do what? He's probably not going to backpedal. So our best bet is not just trying to run around him. Because remember, just like that last example we talked about, DB's outside leverage for a reason. He's trying to force Baldwin to the inside. He's got safety help to the inside most likely. And he's trying to prevent the outside route. Do whatever you can to prevent that outside route. So as a wide receiver, my mindset needs to be, I want to attack his inside shoulder and his inside hip. And so that's what this release is going to do. So we would probably want to try to attack him and give him some kind of crossover fake to the inside, because at the end of the day, this is still man coverage. Just because it's outside leverage doesn't mean that he won't bite on a good fake. So let's watch this full speed. So Baldwin closes the space, tempo change, hits the crossover, and is able to create space for the QB to lead us. That's the name of the game. Because if we try to force this outside release and try to get around him and then break, if that DB's right on my hip and he's forcing me to the sideline in the process of that, I have no space, and I guarantee you my quarterback is not going to risk throwing a pick six on that. I need to give my quarterback space to throw me open. So that's why we attack that inside shoulder. So he comes off the ball here. He comes off fast, but you see how he gives this little tempo change. He slightly raises his pad level and slows down the speed of his move. There's no extra steps. He just slows the tempo down. That's another great way, besides that skip, to change up the tempo. So let's break this down in a little bit more detail. He comes off the ball. What's his first step? He goes right, left, right, left. It's just a 4-step simple release. Everybody, I'm sure, has probably done a 4-step release before, where they come off the ball right, left, and then they hit him with a crossover. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what he's doing is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a slower tempo to the 4 steps that he takes. That's another great way to hesitate. That's another great way to get a DB to not match your tempo, and obviously to get separation while still attacking the inside shoulder and hip, which is what we need to do. So let's play this again, full speed one more time. Great job changing tempo by Baldwin, and then using that crossover to create that space. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like a full 8-week wide receiver gym and on-field workout schedule, everything wide receivers should be doing in the gym and on the field to improve their skills, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.